Hello everyone, my name is Sheetal Rakhunde. I am a BSc pursuing student from MIT SCSC Alandi, and today I am going to present a PPT on the topic A Journey Through History of Probability. Here we will learn how the probability has been evolved from 16th century. This PowerPoint presentation includes introduction to probability, early beginnings of probability like how it was started in the 16th century, Blaise Pascal and Perry de Fermat, who were also known as the father of probability. They were the one who put on classical definition of probability. Then probability in games which we play in our regular day-to-day life, 20th century developments, modern applications which we use in our day-to-day life, challenges and controversies, conclusion, and additional resources. Additional resources are the books which we can use for the further study of probability and understanding its history. First part is introduction. Probability is simply how likely something is to happen. Whenever we are unsure about the outcome of an event, we can talk about the probabilities of certain outcomes, how likely they are. The analysis of events governed by probability is called statistics. Probability is the branch of mathematics concerning numerical description of how likely an event is to occur or how likely is that a proposition is true. The probability of an event is always a number between 0 to 1. That is, its range is from 0 to 1. In this presentation, we will be able to study the journey of history of probability. The early beginning of probability. The mathematical methods of probability arose in the investigation first of Gallo Cardino in the 1560s, not published until 100 years later, and then in the correspondence Perry de Fermat and Blaise Pascal in 1654 on such question as the fair division of the strike in an interrupted game of chance. Christian Huygens in 1657 gave an comprehensive treatment of the subject. Blaise Pascal. He was a French philosopher, mathematician, scientist, inventor, and theologian. In mathematics, he was an early pioneer in the fields of game theory and probability theory. In philosophy, he was an early pioneer in existentialism. As a writer on theology and religion, he was a defender of Christianity. Perry de Fermat. He was one of the most brilliant and productive mathematicians of his time, making many contributions to the differential and integral calculus, number theory, optics, and analytic geometry, as well as initiating the development of probability theory in correspondence with Pascal. His main contribution was finding the tangents of a curve as well as its points of extrema. Classical probability. The correspondence between Pascal and Fermat is the origin of mathematical study of probability. The method they developed is now called as classical approach to computing probabilities. Method. Suppose a game has n equally likely outcomes, out of which m outcomes correspond to winning. Then the probability of winning is m by n. Problems with classical method. The classical method requires a game to be broken down into equally likely outcomes, but it is not always possible to do this. It is not always clear when possibilities are equally likely. Probability in games. Probability theory is an important branch of mathematics that plays a significant role in gaming. Probability is a measure of likelihood of an event occurring. In gaming, probability theory helps players to calculate their chances of succeeding in or losing a game. In video games, understanding probability can help players make strategic decisions based on the likelihood of obtaining a particular weapon or ability. In video games, statistics can help players identify their strengths and weaknesses as well as their win-loss ratio. Application of probability in game theory. Cricket, volleyball, soccer, football, tennis, badminton, poker, blackjack, gambling, and all other the board games use the concept of probability, which gives the idea about how likely a particular person or team is going to win or lose. Win probability refers to the chance that a specific team will win a specific game. If you had two perfectly evenly matched teams playing a game on a neutral field, both teams would open the game with a 50% win probability. And of course, the win probability of the two teams should always add up to 100%. Development of probability in 20th century. Probability and statistics became closely connected through the work on hypothesis testing of R. A. Fisher and Jerzy Neyman, which is now widely applied in biological and psychological experiments and in clinical trials of drugs, as well as in economics and elsewhere. A hypothesis, for example, that a drug is usually effective gives rise to a probability distribution that would be observed if the hypothesis is true. If observations approximately agree with the hypothesis, it is confirmed. If not, the hypothesis is rejected. Applications of probability in modern world. Probability is used to predict the weather conditions. It is used in many games that involve chance or luck. In sports, athletics use probability to find the best strategy. It is used to calculate the batting average in cricket. Many retail companies use probability to predict the chances that they will sell a certain amount of goods in a given day, week, or month. Health insurance companies often use probability to determine how likely it is that a certain individuals will spend a certain amount on healthcare each year. Grocery stores often use probability to determine how many workers they should schedule to work on a given day. Investors use probability to assess how likely it is that a certain investment will pay off. Many political analysts use the tactics of probability to predict the outcome of the election's result. For example, they may predict a certain political party to come into power based on results of exit polls. Insurance companies use probability theory to estimate the likelihood of various events such as car accidents, fire, or illness. Based on these probabilities, they can determine the appropriate premiums to charge their customers. Challenges and controversies of probability. Statistics and probability are part of school maths, but in reality, there are still many students who get poor grades in these subjects. Such study aims to find out on which indicators students experience difficulties in statistics and probability. The research method used was quasi-experimental with total sample of 115 respondents. The results show that respondents' difficulties in statistics and probability were difficulties in probabilistic reasoning, combinatoric reasoning, and proof of variability in random variables. Based on the result obtained, to be able to understand statistic and probability properly, good mathematical logical thinking skills are also required. Conclusion of today's PPT presentation. Probability helps people understand which choices are safe and which choices are risky. Of course, this task is much easier when we have fluent knowledge of probability. By learning about probability, we can learn about the likelihood of future events and prepare accordingly. For all hypotheses that have to deal with uncertainty, the theory of probability, which measure the degree of possibility of such hypothesis and will assign to the hypothesis a certain value of probability. Additional resources. As we know, Wikipedia is a good source of accessing information of every field. Below are the few books given through which we can study probability and its history. First is A Course in Probability Theory by Kai Kai Cheung. Second, An Introduction to Probability Theory and Its Application by William Feller. Third, First Course in Probability by Sheldon Ross. Thank you everyone for hearing me.